Yo, what's going down, everybody? Steve here, Command Centre Wargaming. Fantastic. So I tell you one thing, guys and girls and people, Games Workshop Balance Team are getting a 7 out of 10 from me. We have some updated faction traits for Space Marines. Now, on top of the other awesome serving of Space Marine epicness that's coming out, which has almost got me buying Executioners, but not quite yet. We also have a plethora of updated rules. Okay, mainly for faction traits. Now, it's just important to note. I just want to make a note here that only Adonis was asking me the other day, so he's saying, "Oh, like hopefully, like Death Watch and Grey Knights and stuff get it." So they are certainly getting it. I'm just going to start with this right here. So if what it says, if you're a fan of the Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Dark Angels, Grey Knights, or Death Watch, don't worry. You can look forward to official rules updates coming via PDF download. And remember, you Heretic Astartes players out there will also be getting Shock Assault for your units for a similar update. So I'm hoping that these rules are going to be for free. The ones that are on the PDF. That's what I'm hoping. They could be available for digital distribution off Games Workshop's digital Warhammer Digital, I think it's called. But I have a feeling, look, I mean, because even Grey Knights, like Grey Knights players, I dare say, they deserve some free rules. You know, they've gone through a bit. Anyone who's stuck it out, like you know, with Grey Knights these days, is, you know, they're in for a pat on the back. You know, I mean, I love them, but oh my goodness, talk about, like, you know, underwhelming. So yeah, and then Death Watch. Look, I mean, you know, Death Watch have been doing all right. I still feel as though, you know, they got a little bit of the nerf again. You know, with that beta rule combined with special ammunition. Choosing each one. I still think they still could have had both. I don't think that was super OP at all, to be honest. And I actually think if they kind of did this, then if they kind of did that, they wouldn't have to do so much with this. And then, you never know, they might fix it here in the PDF. Dark Angels as well. So, like, Dark Angels are, you know, I mean, they're okay, but they're really weak right now in terms of even Space Marines. You know, they've basically really, aside from that plasma, you know, the 3 damage plasma, which is good, they don't really have much else that I can really say, you know, will make them shine. You know, and especially now with these new rules, you know, the White Scars getting the epic tactics that they're getting, the faction tactics that they're getting, they're certainly going to be falling behind. Space Wolves, again, they're okay, but, you know, I've got Blood Angels for melee. And I'm sorry, but statistically, from what I've worked out anyway, you know, minus 1 to wound is a lot more powerful than minus 1 to hit. Yes, it is handy for characters. That's true. But, you know, when you're hitting with thunder hammers and stuff like that. But once again, it's at minus 1 to hit on the wound roll, which is, you know, which is really going to buff things up. So, you know, it would be nice to see some of that stuff basically get revised. Now, Running Bear made a comment before. He said that, like, I was upset about the transports being open topped and all that kind of stuff like that, and that, which is a fantastic point. And he said because Eldar have had open top for ages, and this is super true, right? This is super true. So I just like to say that, number one, I wasn't upset at all. I was just saying that, like, you know, lists are going to get cheesy if that's the case, because I know even me, myself, you know, like, if I decide to sort of go down the 40k realm again, as opposed to 30k, which I probably will, you know, I just won't buy from the stores. Basically, you know, like, I'd be getting 3 of those transports for sure. You know, and it's kind of like, you know, but I could see all the cheese lists that'll come out. So, you know, in one way, Games Workshop is sort of, you know, doing all this work to, like, you know, balance the game. And right now, I wouldn't go as far as to call the game balanced, but I think it's as balanced as 8th edition have ever been anyway. So it's definitely improved. So, you know, I honestly think that these Space Marines updates will actually improve the state of the game. You know, I don't think they're going to really have any negative effects on it. And look, I'll be straight up honest with you. I just want to play my Marines again. I know, you know, without having to be like, oh my God, I'm going to get my bottom handed to me again, you know, and stuff like that. And that's just basically it. You know, I'm not asking for much, you know. But I know that, like, one thing I want to say, everybody, in my opinion, this is another conversation Adam Fox, myself, and Adonis were having, is basically that, like, in my opinion, you know, like, I never ever sell anything Astartes, anything Space Marine, or anything Imperial Guard, or anything Eldar. Right? And the reason is because no matter what, you can guarantee that these three factions are basically, you know, they're Games Workshop's babies. And no matter what it is, even if Eldar's on top for a bit, they're going to go back to Space Marines at some point. You know, Imperial Guard is essentially, look, I'm sorry, but like Eldar's always going to be strong because they must have like a whole pack of Wave Serpents basically back at the warehouses that they need to sell. Space Marines will sell on their own. But like, honestly, you know, like, the way it's going is basically that, like, you know, IG have been one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful factions in 8th edition so far. You know, to be honest, I mean, you know, I know Dark Eldar are powerful, you know, I really do. I know Eldar are powerful, I really do. I know even like Knights have had their sort of slice, you know. Everybody's, you know, there are a few other factions have had a little bit of a slice of the pie at times. You know, little bit of successes with Gilliman lists and tiny little bit of Lord's Discordant stuff happening here and there. But, you know, really when it looks at it, when you look at the averages, I mean, that Imperial Knight, Imperial Guard, Smash Captain soup, that was wrecking face for a long time. I mean, you know, to the point where, you know, you couldn't even go to an event without seeing, like, I think as one guy was saying in the UK, he went to one of the events and it was like, you look to the left of you, there's an IG Smash Captain Knights soup list. You look to the right of you, there's the same list. You look forward, there's the same list. You look behind you, there's a guy with the same list, but he's got extra mortars instead of, like, you know, something else. So it's, you know, when stuff gets to that point, I think it's safe to say that, you know, IG are pretty strong. And I understand that is a soup, but when you sort of have a think about, you know, the core of the army, like what's the core of the army in terms of your base, you know, you're looking at, you know, you're getting your CP farming for the most part from those that Loyal 32, you know, so I'd argue that even if it's like got a knight in there, a Castellan, and it's got 2 Smash Captains with some scouts, I'd argue that, like, you know, the rest of it's Imperial Guard, it's just still an Imperial Guard army. Anyway, so look, yeah, rolling on from that, you know, I've been programming, doing game art, doing game design all day, a whole 10 hours, and now we're going to do some more mechanics. I'm going to get into these faction traits and tell you what I think. Woohoo! Awesome, fantastic, gotta love it. All right, so yeah, all right, so here we go. So we're gonna get into it right now. First of all, Crimson Fists. What are they getting in the scheme of epicness? All right, now I did say Games Workshop 7 out of 10 on the balance on the game design. And because I do have a few little sooky whinges. Nothing too crazy, but it's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments down below, like, of course, what you think is the most powerful one of these traits, these faction traits. Let me know what you think is the weakest one, and let me know what you think, you know, could be some really good ideas for, like, Blood Angels and things like that. But anyway, let's do it. So Crimson Fists, no matter the odds. I'm not going to read the fluff. I'm just going to read the rule. Okay. This is a rule video. This is a tactical video. Okay. It's not a fluff video. So when resolving an attack made by a model with this tactic against a unit that contains at least 5 models more than that model's unit, add 1 to the hit roll. Freaking huge. I'm saying it right here. this friggin' chapter trait is freaking epic. You're adding 1 to the hit roll. That's not in melee. That's not in, this is like all out 1 to the hit roll. It doesn't specify what kind of hit. For the purposes of this tactic, a vehicle unit with the tactic counts as 5 models, right? So you're adding +1 to the hit roll with whatever you're hitting with, right? Freaking Land Raider Crusader, bam, like hitting on 2s. Las Cannons hitting on 2s. Dreadnoughts already get it because they already are infantry and they already had it anyway. This is absolutely amazing. Like, I mean, this, I'm telling you, I got to finish this Imperial Fists. I call them Imperial Fists, Crimson Fists. I apologize. So Crimson Fists army. I got to get this stuff going, and because you know why? What I kind of worked out as well, everybody, is that so this actually makes tactical Marines more liable as well. Because think about it, right? You can have 5 tactical Marines. Right, even though the Stalker bolt guns will be better, you can have 5 tactical Marines. You've still got, more shots coming from them, rapid firing with beta bolter rules for cheaper. You've got more bodies on the ground than what you would Primaris. And I dare say, even your scouts, your scouts, you basically just, arming them with heavy bolters. Heck, sniper rifles hitting on 2s. Let's just do it. As long as there's 5 more in a unit. I mean, that's amazing, in my opinion. And I'll go as far as to say, I'll call it right here. In my opinion, this has got to be my favorite one here. I don't know if it's the most powerful. I still think that might go to the Raven Guard, even though it has been nerfed. But this one here is phenomenal. And it gets better. So in addition, when resolving an attack made for bolt weapons by a model with this tactic, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit. Right? You could be getting more hits. You could be getting 5. You could be getting 6 shots. You imagine snipers, oh yeah, hit roll of 6, you get another hit as well. Then you wound, immortal wound, so you all of a sudden this is lifting those units, people. Devastators. Think about Devastators. Oh, I hit a 6. Oh, look, I get another hit with my las cannon. My Devastator las cannon is hitting on 2s. As long as you got to pay a bit of a tax with it, because you've got to go through and put a bit of chaff in there with your Devastators, like 5 just normal Marines, but they can do that. And then your las cannons, you're hitting on 2s, and then every 6 is a -1. I mean, that's the way I'm reading it anyway. Sorry, every 6 is an additional hit. That's the way I'm reading it anyway. I mean, it's just the possibilities of this are endless. Centurions even, whatever. And so that's definitely something that's going to be happening here. Yeah. So anyway, to make the most of this powerful chapter tactic, fielding multiple small units of Crimson Fist is a way to go. All right, so I'm going to read these. I'm going to basically read out what they say about it. So, units of 5 intercessors equipped with your bolt rifle of choice will do you especially proud. All right, with careful target priority, many of your Crimson Fists units will be hitting on 2+, which is a massive deal, especially if you have a captain nearby for those handy re-rolls to hit, making their precision even more lethal. Right? So that's the whole thing. And then you combine this with the Vigilus stuff, you know what I mean? And the normal stratagems and stuff. And it's just, hitting characters and that from the stratagem from there, the Vigilus, what do you call it? The Vigilus tactics or the Vigilus formations. There's some serious shit going down here. I can tell you right now. Stuff just got seriously real for Crimson Fists. I'm glad I got that box and I haven't made an Imperial Fist yet, I can tell you. So just quickly, in case you haven't figured it out, I neglected to mention that these chapter tactics, these new chapter tactics, is also working for vehicles as well. Okay, so go to town, man. Go to town. Also, yeah, so Stalker Bolt Rifles profiles have gone up. So they're now AP -2, damage 2. Right? So, yeah, that's some pretty epic stuff right now. All right? So, yeah. Now, Black Templars. What I said in my other video, I basically said I was really hoping Black Templars are going to get some love. I'm no massive, like, crusader for Black Templars. I like them. And they were kind of around in 3rd edition when I started playing seriously. I started painting and collecting that in 2nd. But 3rd edition is sort of when I actually started playing games seriously. And, like, Black Templars are important to me, even though they're not my favorite army. But one of my first proper box sets, you know, not the individual, you know, units from 2nd edition, but the proper box sets, aside from Space Hulk, was the 3rd edition Black Templar Dark Eldar box. You know, so I originally had, you know, Black Templars, and I love them. The whole Iron Cross Teutonic Knight thing, I'm down with that. I'm down with that. But yeah, so anyway, let's have a look. So when a charge roll is made for a unit with this tactic, you can reroll any or all dice. In addition, when a model with this tactic would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll a d6. On a 5-up, this wound is not lost. 5-up, feel no pain against mortal wounds. Thank you, anti-psychers. You know, no more psych, or I mean not no more psychers, but a 5-up is a serious feel no pain. These guys are tough. And then, you know, able to re-roll that charge or picking the 1 dice. So it's not like you're just like re-rolling the whole thing. You actually can re-roll 1 dice or 1 die. So, you know, as it says down here, you know, coming out of Land Raider Crusaders or Rhinos or even the new Flyno, you know, Hover Rhino thing. You know, it's all sort of going down here, like for the Black Templars. All right, so it's pretty epic. Pretty epic. Anything where there's a reroll on charge, like anything with reroll at all, is powerful. So you know, and then so we're going to move on now. So we're going to talk about the Imperial Fists. So the Siege Masters. Now these guys are already all right with their Vigilus faction traits and stuff like that. I know there's been some epic combos going around with Centurions busting out of Land Raiders and stuff, but it looks like they've got a little bit of a buff as well. So all these faction traits all got buffs, everybody, except for Raven Guard, which I feel is unfortunate, but it's still a massive improvement of what we had. But anyway, let me continue. We'll get to that. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model with this tactic, a target does not receive the benefit of cover to a saving throw, same as usual, which is okay on its own. And if that attack was made with a bolt weapon, an unmodified hit roll over 6 scores 1 additional hit, which is huge. Now, I only talk about all these additional hits when you're already going through and you've got this new shock attack ability, which means that the Space Marines, all Astartes now get additional attack if they're charged or were charged. So these additional hits and stuff like that on each attack, they're really going to add up. And then, like, you know, exploding 6s and things like that. This is really going to bring in some melee armies, you know, back into things. Here, I can see things like, you know, Death Company, Blood Angels, Death Company, you know, coming in there with chainswords. You know, yeah, you know, they're heaps weak strength, but there's heaps of shots, and you're re-rolling the wound, and you get additional hits and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, it's getting there. So as you can see, the Imperial Fists still deny the enemy effects of cover, but they could also score additional hits with bolt weapons. Centurions, Devastators, or Aggressors with Bolt Storm Gauntlets are therefore excellent choices to bolster your mighty Sons of Dawn. The enemies of Imperial Fists can expect to face punishing salvers without anywhere to hide. It's powerful. It's powerful. I still don't think it's as powerful as that, but it's definitely powerful. Like, all this is powerful. The Black Templar one is powerful in its own right. Probably the weakest one is the Ultramarine one. Now, granted, Games Workshop, they argue it's the most flexible. And it is powerful in its own right. And but it's still the weakest one on its own, right? Taking into account though that these guys still have Guilliman, I don't think this is a massive problem, and it did get a bit of a buff anyway. So add one of the leadership characteristic of models with this tactic, yeah, whatever. Units with this tactic could shoot in a turn in which they fell back, but if they do, when resolving an attack made by a model that unit certain player, subtract one of the hit roll. Okay, same as before, but we added the leadership to it. But as it says down here, have a think about it. It's all units, right? So vehicles, Space Marine, Land Raider, Redeemers with flamers, right, can basically get the subtract one from the hit roll. You know, all sorts of stuff, and they can basically jump out. And yeah, so it's powerful enough. It's powerful enough, and you've got Guilliman, and that's, you know, Guilliman with rerolls. You know, what else? You know, what else do you need? I mean, it'd be interesting to see what they do with Guilliman's points in the new codexes. I actually think he should. You know, I think he'll stay the same. But I actually think he should come down just a little bit. I think he should go back to about 350. To be honest, I think, or even 370. I think where he is right now is just a little bit too expensive. But anyway, White Scars. These guys get a really good one. I'm almost tempted to start some not a White Scar army, but a White Scar detachment. Now, I've said in other videos, I'm not really a massive buff of the whole Mongolian Attila the Hun thing they got going on. But I dig the white. Like, I've always liked the white because it kind of looks like, you know, it kind of makes them look like stormtroopers a little bit, you know. But that's what it is. So anyway, units with these tactics can charge in a turn in which they advanced or fell back. Okay, right there, and that's awesome. Biker models with his tactics do not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons for advancing and firing assault weapons. I'm thinking melter guns on White Scars on a pack of bikes. Melter guns, melter bombs, land speeders, with suicide land speeders, with melter guns, basically, like, you know, designed to just rip up the front and just spew melter into things. Like, they're weak, they're gonna die, but like they're pretty cheap, and they're gonna be able to get in there and do the damage that they got to do. Kamikaze land speeders. That's what I'm thinking. Very powerful. So as I was saying here, the ability to advance and charge grants them the equivalent of a 3d6 charge range, which is crazy. So they're already, think about a land speeder, right? You're already moving like 20, because when you go flat out, unless they change that rule, you can automatically move, like, I think it was 14, and then you automatically add 6 to that roll, because just land speeders they advance 6 automatically. And then you could go through, and you could basically go through and charge again. You know, so it's like 26-inch movement up the board, like boom, probably even further, right? So it's pretty epic stuff. So yeah, I mean, granted though, they won't be able to fire those, so because if they do advance, they don't suffer the penalties. But okay, well, yeah, they can still fire them. They don't suffer the penalties. It's in the wording. Anyway, look. Awesome either way. If you're going to run bikes, these guys are now the way to do it. They lost the spot there a little bit to some other armies. Death Watch, Dark Angels bikes, things like that. The bikes are always strong, but now it's even more reason to just go back to the best of speed. Now, Raven Guard. All right, this is a controversial one for me. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon against a unit with a tactic by a model that's more than 12 away, that unit is treated as having the benefit of cover to its saving throw, and if that unit is not a vehicle and is entirely or within a terrain feature, subtract 1 from a hit roll. So yeah, it's a bit of a I don't know. It's kind of a nerf. It is because, okay, first of all, the fact that we've got the ability, it's not -1 to hit anymore on a vehicle. So it's kind of been nerfed a bit there. It's adding 1 in the cover. Now, I still think that's actually pretty strong because I'm thinking of playing my Alpha Legion with these guys. It's like, so, you know, my Sakaran Venatars and stuff in cover, my vehicles in cover. You know, they now have a 2-up armor save. They've basically got the armor save of a Land Raider, which is pretty powerful. You know, which means is, you know, I'm saving from las cannon hits on a 5, which is pretty decent. And as it says down the bottom, if you're in cover, you also get that stack. So it goes to like, you know, a 1++ sort of thing. So, you know, it goes to like a 4-up, which is pretty resilient. And I'll be honest, like, I actually think that, like, there is actually a lot of stuff in the game right now that negates the -1 to hit bullshit. Okay, like there's that Imperial Knight stratagem by House Morlock or whatever, or Morgan, or House Magan, whatever it is. And basically that just negates, you know, your hit rolls. There's a relic in the Chaos Knight Codex. Once again, negates the hit rolls. So the thing is that, like, although people say, okay, this is a bit of a buff, I actually think this is fair because you've actually, you know, you're protected against a lot of buffs now, you know, and you can still get your subtract 1 from the hit roll if you're in terrain. So, which is pretty fair. I mean, you know, it doesn't say in cover. Oh no, it says entirely on or within a terrain feature. So that kind of actually makes more sense because, you know, like they wouldn't be -1 to hit out in cover. Now it says, say if they use not a vehicle and is entirely or within a terrain feature, subtract 1 to the hit roll. Now, it doesn't say anything about units that aren't. So what about flyers? Flyers, like, I'm not sure if they have the vehicle keyword. I'm pretty sure they would. My codex is up there, or 100 codexes over there. I'm not going to check that right now, but I mean, it doesn't say anything about flyers. So what if I was to, like, move my flyer over the top of a terrain? I suppose if it is a vehicle, it's not going to work. But anyway, I still might get the -1 to hit. Anyway, not sure. Let me know in the comments down below. I have to recheck that for the flyers, but it definitely could be a thing. I could see some combos happening. And they're also saying as well, it stacks with smoke launchers too. So let's have a look at that. Our ranges of over 12 Raven Guard essentially always count as being in cover. And if they're already in cover, they'll also be harder to hit. Right? So unless they're a vehicle, this gives the Raven Guard a huge advantage in the early stage of the battle. And we all know how important the early stages of the games are. They're basically, the first turn will make or break you pretty much. You may come back on the second, but, you know. Of course, vehicle smoke launchers or smoke grenades used or infrared can hamper the aim of enemy units further, With the right combination of units, you'll be able to control the game, forcing your opponent to engage you at close range, right where you want them. Still think it's powerful. I still think used in the right way. I reckon it's more powerful, but you've just got to think more about how you're going to use it. Very exciting times. So we've got Salamanders, so forged in battle. This is actually pretty decently powerful. I was actually pretty surprised on how decently powerful Salamander's one is. So when a unit in this tactic fires Overwatch or is chosen to shoot or fight with, you can re-roll a single hit roll and you can re-roll a single wound roll. It's just a single hit roll and a single wound roll. So how would that work? Like you re-roll, say I got a whole squad of Primaris Marines and we're in rapid fire range, right? And I get like 12, you know, and I re-roll like 12 dice, and then like, can I only like pick to re-roll one of those dice? That's how I'm reading it, which isn't so powerful when it comes to like mass units, but it's very powerful if, say, you're overwatching with a las cannon or something like that. So yeah, so when resolving an attack made with a weapon that has an armor penetration characteristic of -1 against a unit with his tactic, that weapon is treated as having a power armor penetration character of 0. So it's kind of a little bit like Thousand Suns to Dust. But yeah, okay, it's not as good as what I thought, but it's still okay. So what do they say about it? I'm not a massive Salamanders player, by the way. So that might be a massive thing, and I still think it could be. But yeah, so in addition to their vehicles now benefiting from incredibly handy rerolls to hit and wound, the saving throws of Salamander's units will be unimpeded by those pesky minus AP1 weapons. And there are a lot of AP1 weapons in this game, so it's a pretty good buff. Nasty. 5-man tactical squads armed with a single special or heavy weapon are great options here, both for re-rolls to their hardest hitting weapon. And yeah, so it is just one. It's just one re-roll, but that's per unit, right? So as I was saying here, like, you know what you do? 10 tactical marines, right? Throw in a like a rocket launcher. Bury in a rocket launcher. Bury in like a multi-melter. Bury in las cannons. Bury these las cannons inside units. Basically just, think about burying your heavy weapons in other units, and they're going to be re-rolling stuff, and it's pretty epic. So, it's definitely one way to do it. So, Iron Hands. So I can't actually remember these ones, but we'll have a look. So when a model with this tactic would lose a wound, roll 1d6. On a 6, that wound is not lost. Right, 6 up, feel no pain. You basically got a custodes, feel no pain. When resolving an Overwatch attack made by a model with this tactic, a hit roll of 5 or 6 scores a hit. So that's basically Overwatching on a 5. Right, this is pretty powerful so far. In addition, models with this tactic that have a damage table are considered to have double the number of wounds remaining for the purpose of determining what row to use on that damage table. So yeah, in addition to effectively ignoring 6 of their wounds lost, the Iron Hands are deadly accurate with firing Overwatch, and their vehicles will fight at full capacity until they're all but destroyed. That's very powerful. We've all seen how powerful that is with Knights, that stratagem fighting at full effect. Really powerful, actually. Especially for armor, which is fluffy, because this is what these guys are about. If your opponent is trying to pick off your Repulsor Executioner before it can wreak havoc on their army with its murderous main gun, they're in for quite a challenge. Yeah, I could just see how this would be used for many things, like dreadnoughts and stuff like that as well. Imagine onslaught cannons, overwatching, having a dreadnought always, nearly always, attacking on its or operating on its half or full effectiveness. Land Raider, it's powerful. It's actually really powerful, and it's good to see, because these Iron Hands are a cool chapter. They kind of get the short end of the stick a lot of the time. They got it in the Horus Heresy too. Even the books, I just finished reading a book called Seventh Serpent, and I won't go into spoilers, but they're in it, and they kind of get a bit snookered. They still achieve what they wanted to achieve in a way, but So anyway, with the augmented chapter tactics and additional attacks generated by the new shock assault ability, the Space Marines are set to become a dominant force on the tabletop. Anyway. So, up the top here, I already read that part. Up the top here, as it says, we're about to embark on the re-enter the era Indomitus. That's not what you call it. We are re-entering the era of Space Marines being OP. Right, they've suffered in 8th edition, but I'm very excited to say that finally I really have hope. And so long as there's no even if we can just have Space Marines, you know, equaling it out. Like, they don't even have to be OP, but if we can at least, you know, put a fighting chance up against Eldar armies, and, you know, 'cause I mean, that's the reality of it. Unless you get like lucky rolling, like super lucky rolling, you know, you're really in for a hard time against any player using Eldar or Dark Eldar or even Tau or even Imperial Guard, with a player that knows what they're doing, knows their stratagems, things like that. So, you know, these guys, Space Marines, are the lifeblood of Warhammer, and they need to be represented on the battlefield, you know, as they are, you know, in the fluff. And I really think that, you know, this is going to make them great again. This is going to really, you know, like, rock them out. So anyway, all right, everybody, very excited here. Steve, Command Centre Wargaming. If you like it, please consider subscribing, all that kind of crap. I'm going to finish this Fire Raptor, and I'll catch you in the next video. And think about more epic combos for my Space Marines and yours. Let me know in the comments down below, everybody, and I'll catch you in the next one.